Hauntingly sincere are the ways in which we have to teach lessons to people sometimes. And unfortunately, the best lesson that we can give somebody else when it comes to any type of abuse or gaslighting or disrespect is silence. Sometimes it's not even worth communicating with some of these people out here about what they're doing wrong, because you know that you're not going to be heard or seen anyway. And so it's wiser to just not cast your pearls before swine. And so what you have to value is not to be just thrown in the mud. Okay, that's one way of looking at it. And another way is that if you truly want to command respect and radiate power, now a lot of people will say, oh, well, I don't want power. I'm not interested in power. It's like, okay, well, have fun being weak. Okay, have fun being somebody without influence. Now, in War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy, there's a great line in the very beginning that says something along the lines of, I'm more interested in influence than power. And in my mind, I thought that that was a great quote, but at the same time, I don't think you can have influence without power to some degree. And I don't think you can have power without influence. However, I do understand the significance of both and why it's going to play an important factor in our lives. Because influence, think about the digital real estate that is social media. Okay, social media is a tool. I don't see it as anything other than a tool at this point. I only use it for the sake of getting information and data, and then distributing that information and data and giving life to the people that are going to actually be able to comprehend and apprehend the message that I bestow upon the people. And so the only thing that I'm concerned with when it comes to social media is influence and digital real estate. It's not clout, it's not power or anything like that. However, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm not interested in power. I am interested in power, but I'm not interested in power for power's sake. I'm interested in power for the sake of intrinsic qualities to bring people closer to Jesus Christ. And ultimately, that in of itself is going to be enough to do what I must and live out the truth so that I can let die what is false. And far too many of us are so lost in the disillusioned qualities of life that we don't know what exactly we need to do when the illusion that we see becomes corrupted before our eyes. There are many people that are living in this day and age where they see the truth and yet they will do anything and everything to reject it. Carl Jung, a psychologist from the 1900s, the early 1900s, who I consider to be, I don't necessarily consider myself a successor of Carl Jung. However, I do want to further on his work, and I want to build off of what he started and what Freud did with Jung as well. Because the interpretation of dreams, if nobody's ever read that book by Sigmund Freud, it's a very fascinating book. And he also has another book about the unconscious, specifically Freud, that is very, very interesting. But in regard to Carl Jung and Jungian psychology, I am most interested in these types of forms of understanding psychology and philosophy because it's going to give me a better understanding of no philosophy. Now, what do you mean, Thaddeus? Like, what are you talking about here? Well, my philosophy of life is no philosophy. And psychology is simply the bridge to having that. And philosophy is also a bridge to having that, which ironically you don't have it. Because once you have no philosophy of life, as being the philosophy of life for you, you get to not pick and choose per se, but you get to, because that would be no better than religions and dogmatism. But you absolutely have the opportunity to hear out anybody and anything. You know, we're studying the art of war in a Iron-Minded Wealth class in the Regal Change Academy right now, and something that is so profound to see is the insights of the Eastern thinkers. And Sun Tzu, who wrote the Art of War, he has this amazing ability to create philosophical arguments regarding war. And yet you can apply these things to pretty much any part of your life. I mean, this is why we're doing this in the finance class, because there's too many people that want to disassociate finances from spirituality and vice versa. And I don't think that that's correct. And I think that you're going to be doing yourself a great disservice. And so one of the reasons that I bring this up is because the more people that I talk to, the more wealthy I seem to become. And so this is not to say that you should be a mute, when you have silence and you're walking around in silence. It's not to say that you ought to be mute. It's to say that you ought to know who's worth dealing with and who's worth not dealing with, and who's worth staying away from no matter the cost. Because, for example, there will be a lot of young, beautiful women out here. However, are they going to be worth your time? And betas don't ask themselves this question. Only alphas do. And I'm not saying this because, ooh, I'm an alpha, bro. I'm just saying that there are people who are godlike savages and there are people that are not. Okay? And specifically when it comes to the men. Okay? There are men that are godlike savages, and then there are men that are not. They're the depleted Coomers. They're the ones worshiping the pink palace. They're the ones that are willing to sacrifice their phallus for the pink palace. And in the process, they completely lose themselves. They might have everything, but they might never have themselves. And that's really the true downfall of all of these betas. And you'll see this within billionaires too. Like there's a bunch of multimillionaires and billionaires that they know how money works, but golly, they can't get a grasp on female nature. Meanwhile, you'll see the broke dude who he can't get a job, but man, oh man, he knows exactly how to work women. And it's interesting how that happens sometimes, right? Well, what I say to that is, why not have both? Okay, I mentioned this to someone yesterday in my circle that, look, I'm going to be very frank. I want it all. Okay, I want it all. I want the beautiful woman. I want a family. I want to be able to live in a rural place and then have multiple estates, not just inside the United States, but also outside in different countries. I want to have accounts in different countries. I want to have passports for different countries, because I'm a strategic-minded thinker, and I'm slowly beginning to realize that I need to step more into the world. It's not that I need to be more worldly, it's that I need to, if I really want to make the kind of impact that I know I'm capable of, and that I'm already on the path to do. I mean, look at me. There are times where I think to myself that there's no way that I can be this irrelevant. And then there are times where it's like, man, a few years ago, I only wish that I could have been as relevant as I am today. So the thing is, though, is that I always knew what I was capable of. I always knew what I was aiming to do and what I was aiming to accomplish. And I still have full faith in myself, and I'm fully committed to this process. But I'm not a mute. Okay, I'm not somebody, even though I don't speak much in the community, I know who's worth talking to and I know who's not. That beautiful woman who is wearing all red at the gym in those tight short shorts and a bra, she looks a freaking amazing, man. She looks amazing. And she's coming over, flipping her hair and trying to get my attention and accidentally bumping into me and all that stuff, or walking next to me and slowing down, acting like she's lost. Okay? Only men that are actually socially aware understand this. And men that have social and sexual charisma will also understand this too. And one of the best ways that you can increase both your sexual and your social charisma is simply, well, with the social charisma, being warm, generous, and confident. Whereas with the sexual charisma, I find that really it comes down to when you're able to look at a woman, you just think about what you would want to do with her. And I'm not saying that you should think lustful thoughts per se, but I'm just saying that like you can almost communicate with these women telepathically and they'll just feel it. They might not know exactly what you're thinking, but they'll feel that. And I've aimed to do this. I've practiced this. I don't want to call it a dark art because I don't think it's a dark art, but it is a matter of influence. Okay, why not be both sexually and socially attractive and charismatic? Why not be the type of man who maybe he's silent and he's stoic, but he's also fierce as a warrior, and he's as kingly as they come. He walks like a king. He stands up straight. He's no hunchback. He has his chest out a little bit, but he's not, he's not like that, but he's just calm, cool, and collected. Okay, he's capable of being an influence, and he's capable of being an impact in himself. He is the circumstance to his own environment. Why wouldn't you want to be that kind of man? Why wouldn't you, if you're a man watching this, why wouldn't you want to be that type of man? Why not want it all? This is what I don't understand. People are settling way too much for themselves. It's like, don't you want to set your sights a little higher? Like, I can only give you so much inspiration. And look, I've made my fair share of mistakes, and in some ways, I would be way further ahead if I didn't make those mistakes. But really, though, I was in this on my own, man. Do you know what my uncles told me, my family told me when I was younger, when I was like 18 to 20? They told me that I should give up on my dreams. Verbatim, I should give up on my dreams because I'm not going to reach them anyway. What kind of family support is that? What kind of family support is that? It's ridiculous. These people are so miserable with their lives because they gave up years ago. They were never consistent. Do you know the reason why most people fail? Is because they don't want to be consistent long term. And it's not about going hard 110% every day, all day. You're going to kill yourself. Not physically, well, maybe physically to some degree, but your cortisol is going to go up. Everything's going to go up as far as your stress levels and all these negative hormones that you don't need active. You're going to lose your serotonin. You're going to lose your dopamine that is actually healthy dopamine. Because I get my dopamine from sales and from closing clients and such. And closing like deals with my business. Like that's where I get my dopamine from. For the most part, I live for that because, yeah, it can be a roller coaster ride, man. It can be a crazy ride because you never really know what's going to happen. And there are some weeks where you're just like, all I do is win, no matter what. Like, it's amazing. But then there are some weeks where it's like, I'm giving it all I got, and I'm barely fucking moving, man. Like, you're going 110%, and you're barely moving. It's rough. It's a rough go. It really is. Because you're giving it your all, and you're just, like, it's like, it feels like a cat that's trying to roar, but then when you actually have those times where you roar and man, oh man, you roar, man, it's amazing. Like the power you feel, the respect, you command respect, just the way you walk in the room, you got a little swag to yourself and you're like, yeah, I'm the fucking man. Like I'm the man. And even if I'm not the king here, I don't give a fucking crap who is. Like that's the kind of energy you're walking in around the town with. And then when you're in the gym and you're lifting heavy weight and you're like, yeah, that's like you're just focused on your world, man. You're focused on you. You feel like Luke Skywalker going through the stormtroopers. Like you just feel amazing. And yet, for some reason, there are dudes that want to settle. You know what's crazy too is I've noticed this with people in my business as well, and just in business in general, because I've worked with a lot of different kinds of people in business throughout the years. And one thing I've noticed for sure is the people that are buying you from you, let's say from like, I don't know, for free to like $50. Usually, not all the time, because there are good people that will purchase things from you with that much money, but for like $0 to $50, most people are just trying to buy relief. They're trying to buy like a temporary, like, they're trying to put a band-aid on something that is actually like a dam. Like they're trying to put a band-aid, or they're trying to put duct tape on the dam that's cracking. And they're like, oh, well, that'll do for another 5 minutes. It's like, yeah, but like, it's not going to do forever. And they're like, no. They just can't think long term because they're so used to like living in the single moment, and not in a good way. They're not living in the moment. They're not living in the now, that they just don't get it. But then I've had clients and initiates in my business where this is a 4-figure sale. Okay, 4 figures, which isn't even compared to some people out there that will do 5-6-figure sales, if not more, right? Because I've even met some people in real estate that they'll do a 10-figure sale. It's freaking crazy, like I only met somebody like that once, and it was just a completely different world, dude. It was a completely different world. And it was just a very brief interaction. But anyway, so I have then the 4-figure sale for my business. And those kinds of people, they don't ask questions. They just say, okay, what can you do and how quick can you do it? Boom, 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 boom. And they're just, okay, on to the next. Okay, on to the next. They just operate completely differently. They're so consistent with everything. And then the people that are like, you know what it is too? It's like the people that are usually just wanting to do like that $0 to $50 sale. They're usually saying to themselves like, okay, how much can I get without having to give? That's usually their mindset. Whereas with the people like the 4-figure sale, they're more like, okay, how much can I invest to get a ROI on this? And they see themselves as an investment. A lot of people that are in those lower figure ranges, they don't see themselves as an investment. And this is one of the reasons why I've changed up who I'm working with now. And although like there is the free tier in the Regal Change Academy, I know for a fact, because we have a vetting system and a vetting process, that if you're not putting in the work or the effort to be there, you will be removed. And so that's nice because we automatically will filter out the people that are just, they're wanting to get as much without having to give nothing back. So there's a system in place. There's a system. You want to know what influence is? You want to know what power is within an ecosystem? That's what it looks like. Because a lot of people, they don't need better marketing or better whatever when it comes to their businesses. They need a better ecosystem. They need a better environment in which it's very clear what's what and who's who and how to do things. And so that's exactly what I'm doing right now. And that's what I'm putting more effort and more investment into, because I see the people that I work with, all of them, every person that I'm working with, I see them also as an investment. Like, as much as I see myself as an investment, I see their success in some ways is my responsibility. It's not always going to be that, because I can only show them the door most of the time. But it's like, there has to be certain things that are going into place to where you have to see people for who they are sometimes. Because again, I'll have the proclivity to have more faith in people than they do themselves. And that's not always going to be a good balance. And again, it's not for everybody for these things, but this is just what I've seen. This is just what I've noticed, just within my business, okay? I've also worked with businesses where we've closed marketing deals and such for like 5-6 figures, okay? We've also done budgeting plans for 5 or 6 figures for a month, okay? With like Google ads. The type of people that these are like that you work with are just on a different level. They just want results as quickly as possible, because what do wealthy people do? They buy time. What do the poor people do? They buy things. Okay, peasants buy things. And I don't like to say peasants in a derogatory way. I'm simply speaking this as a factual statement. I'm really not trying to be like, "Ooh, they're peasants, bro." Like, no, that's not what I am saying. But the thing is that if you want to continue to be a peasant, then be silent forever. But if you want to know how to leverage your silence to get power and influence, know who's worth talking to. All right? So with all that being said, I hope that this was a informative and insightful video. It was kind of different than what I usually do, I suppose. It kind of evolved as it kind of went, which was kind of interesting. But I hope that everybody stays blessed out there, and I hope everybody has a peaceful day. Peace. Until next time.